Congratulations on reaching the level where you can successfully administrate your local system. Now we're going to take everything we've learned thus far and begin to apply that on remote systems, such as servers or Windows 10 clients that may not be directly in front of us. In this section, we will cover enhancing your system's security, running commandlets on a remote machine, creating a session on a remote machine, connecting to Microsoft Online to administrate those services, and importing commandlets from a remote system. Enhancing your system's security. In this video, we will cover enabling PowerShell remoting, hopping prevention, and the permissions required. In order to successfully administrate Windows 10 systems remotely, you must first enable PowerShell remoting. This can be done at the group policy level for an entire organization, or it can be done on the individual computer by using the Enable PS Remoting commandlet, which you can auto-tab. When we hit Enter, it's going to automatically go through the process of setting up Windows Remote Management and any firewall exclusions that need to be applied. You must do this in an administrator level console for it to work. Now once we have that done, we could go to another machine and remote into this machine. Now as far as Windows servers, such as our domain controller, we just need to enter PS session and put in the computer name. If you're using Windows Server 2012, R2, and Server 2016 systems, these already have PowerShell remoting enabled by default. The reason for this is with virtual machines and servers that are in data centers, it becomes vital to be able to remotely administrate our systems. Microsoft by default is a secure company, so when you get their operating systems, anything that might be a vulnerability is turned off. PowerShell remoting in Windows Server 2012 R2 and Server 2016 is turned on by default. It's because they've gone through great lengths to make it secure. If we type hostname, we get DC. We are actually on that computer even though we are in our Windows 10 client box. At this point, we can work with the file system. We would not be able to do this if we did not have permissions to that computer. You must be a user logged in to our Windows 10 client that has the same credential levels required to be able to access the DC. A standard user tried to do what we're doing now, they would have gotten an error message. Let's exit and try that. We'll enter our PS session. We'll put in the domain controller for the name of the computer, and then we will give it the credential parameter. Now, if we were a standard user, or we were logged in as a standard user, and we wanted to access the domain controller, and we knew credentials that would get us there, but we weren't logged in as that, we could use the same pattern in order to go ahead and remote to that domain controller. We'll put the get credentials in parentheses, and then this will prompt us for the credentials first, and then it'll pass that to the credential parameter. We'll put in just a makeup user, makeup password, and hit enter. And we should get an error. And there we go. The username or password is incorrect. So in this case, we've typed in one that doesn't exist. If we typed in one that did exist but did not have access levels to the domain controller to begin with, we would have gotten a slightly different error where it told us that we don't have the permissions required in order to do the function. This is one way that PowerShell is by default secure at the remoting level. Another security that they've built in is we'll go ahead and enter our domain controller with a PS session. We'll get to the root and we'll clear the host. Now you can see that we are on the domain controller remotely. Now if we try and enter from the domain controller remote session to another session, let's say our app server, let's see what happens. And we get an error. You are currently in a Windows PowerShell PS session and cannot use the Enter PS Session commandlet to enter another session. This is another way that PowerShell remoting is secured. It prevents hopping from one system to another system and even to another system through remote sessions. You can remote to one computer and one computer only. Now, later we'll look at how we can create a session that we can go in and exit and go back in and exit but keep open, and we could do this in parallel with multiple systems so that we could exit our session in one computer and then enter our session into another computer. But as far as entering a session into, say, our domain controller, and then from there entering another session and hopping, this is prevented by PowerShell. Yet another nice built-in security feature from Microsoft.